Valentine's Day for Public Enemy number 1. I'm Jason Horton.
I'm Rebecca Lieb.
And this is Ghost Town.
So I spent a couple years in Chicago, and I was very interested in what happened there, but I was never really in touch with like a lot of like the Al Capone. Like everything in Chicago has like Al Capone's disc shop and like deep dish pizza and this suit, Al Capone's suit place and this road, Clark's, like everything is very, has that identity to it, But I never like really got into it until I left. And then I went back to go on this ghost tour and they took us to this place, 2122 North Clark Street. And that was the place.
Wait, isn't like Second City or IO was on Clark Street?
Yeah,
I remember.
Close to that.
I've been to Chicago twice and for music based reasons, so I never really spent much time there or whatever. But I know it's obviously
very fun. It's a very fun city. It feels weird though because I'm from the Midwest, so it feels like home. So I never thought it was like as cool as a lot of other people thought of it because I just wanted to leave the Midwest so badly. Anyway, I spent a couple years there. I did Second City. But Chicago is especially known for being a huge gang mobster scene in the late 1920s. It was lawless. Like it was like bootlegging in Prohibition era, gambling, prostitution, and really who controlled all these things were the Chicago gangs, essentially. And gangs too who, looking at pictures of this era, they were all like dressed to the nines. They were very, very into like fashion.
And that makes it okay, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
right?
they seem respectable.
Yeah,
respectable, but they have like machine guns in like their pockets.
Right. It's like a gentlemanly kind of, crimes.
Exactly. So to commemorate Valentine's Day, we're doing our special Ghost Town version of that, and that is talking about 2122 North Clark Street, popularly known as the site of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Which is, one of the cool. Listen, massacres are bad, but
massacres are bad. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, it's a hot take. Yeah. Sorry, is that controversial? But massacres are bad. Coolest name.
Really cool name.
It's
really
St.
cool
Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yeah, it feels like it's something that like not like Blink-182 should have done like an album about it or something. Yeah. Kind of a.
They still can.
Yeah, I guess they still can. They still make music, don't they?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why are you trying to spread rumors that Blink-182's on the skids or something?
I don't know. Or like I think I'm thinking of My Bloody Valentine. How old am I?
Well, My Bloody Valentine's a pretty kind of a very critically and cult respected band. I was never like a huge fan, but the Loveless album is like a really popular, and it's one of those bands, you know what I mean? But Blink-182 is a different band
than that.
Yes.
Okay. We're all learning things in this podcast.
Yeah.
Woof.
And it was Valentine's Day. Is that because I'm married, and even before it was when I was dating, I was like, oh man, am I going to be? I hope I'm not dating around Valentine's. It's just so much pressure. You know what I mean?
A lot of pressure.
It's not even just because I assume that the girl is like, you better bring me flowers. It's not that either. But it's like you feel like both sides oh, I don't want this to be some awkward thing.
Yeah, but why can't we? I love it. I think it's so fun. I think
really?
It's so funny. It's just candy and heart shit everywhere.
Yeah.
It's I love leaning into it, especially I feel like I'm the one that makes a joke of a second date where it's we're on a jumbotron. It's where's the ring?
Yeah. I think you should put a rose in your mouth. And then upload all your dating sites with a rose in your mouth.
That's good. Yeah. In a robe on silk sheets.
Yeah.
That's very close to a picture I do have on my
okay.
where I am in a robe.
But the sheets are just 100 thread count.
Oh,
garbage sheets.
Yeah.
Garbage
150.
Sheets.
There's actually one thread that I'm laying on. It's really not comfortable.
Well,
it's not good. But wait, what do you have a good Valentine's Day thing you guys do?
No, for our anniversary, we just went out to dinner. Valentine's even because Michelle.
Ate?
Yeah, I know, and I don't.
Your anniversary?
I never almost never go out to eat, but we did for that.
That's
and,
good.
Del Taco's always open, so and my baby deserves it.
It was the week that I didn't have a shooting.
Yeah,
exactly.
Great. Yeah, I think I took a week off.
Everything for your princess, Michelle.
It was, but she's not really. She's kind of a. anti, you know what I mean, when it comes, and plus we're going to be doing like a bunch of traveling, and
it'll get romantic on its own.
No, I just think we're doing some traveling. I'm just saying we're doing some traveling, so we're excited about that.
That's fun.
Yeah. So what about you? I mean, do you have any active plans?
Okay, so I wanted to have a party, like an answer.
For anyone complaining about we're talking about like dating stuff, this is on brand of this episode.
Yeah,
I know some people are going to be like, oh.
This is the one time, aside from Sweetest Day, which we have the Sweetest Day Massacre happening on that day.
Yeah.
So wait for it. This is one day where I feel like I can freely talk about my dates, critics, and haters. Yeah. So don't tune out.
Yeah,
don't tune out.
Stay here, please.
Just stay with us.
We're happy to have you.
This will be short, I promise you, and not full of expletives. Anyway, I was gonna have a party, like a weird. Because again, I love Valentine's Day. I do think like there's corny shit, but like I kind of love that. I fucking think it's like cheesy.
I think it's okay to like, you know, it's like thing to be like, oh, this sucks. I don't like this is but it's like sometimes it's like, can you just have a good time for 2 seconds?
Can we just overeat?
Yeah.
On this occasion?
Yeah.
Together? No? Okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have a little party, like maybe a 90s alien abduction Valentine's Day party, or like something themed and fun. But realistically, I'm not sure what's going to happen, because I went on this really good date yesterday. And you know it's good. And again, I don't believe anything on any dates, because guys have told me everything on dates, and it has no correlation to how they act later. But we were texting like constantly, and I don't do that either. And I don't think you probably would recommend that, you know, before your meeting, you like text all the time, because it's like, who knows until you meet somebody.
Well, then it becomes, then you're really in love with, or you're really infatuated with the texting portion, and you meet you ever do, like there's people you know online, you're like, oh, and then you see them in real life, you're like, oh man, what do I say?
And that's what I'm writing an episode about attraction for the show that I'm working on, and science, like essentially sociologists are like, yeah, you will fill in the blanks with the profiles are strong when they have the least amount of information on them, because you fill in the blanks. Yeah. You know, your imagination runs wild. But he was really funny and really smart and very attractive. And I was like, oh, I'm having fun. I don't know. Fuck. Maybe I should have fun. God forbid. But then we met, and it was great. And it was just like everything. And I think like 30 minutes into the date, he invited me to hang out with him on Friday.
And his family.
His family was there.
So
he flew them in.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, no pressure though.
No pressure. It's fine. But I think we're hanging out on Friday, the day after Valentine's Day.
Nice. Whose idea was that?
His.
Yeah.
Right.
Which might be a good. I mean,
I don't know. But then I'm like, what about Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I'm not good enough for Valentine's Day.
I know, I'm already
you know what, though, honestly,
berating somebody.
That's probably for his other stupid, boring girlfriend or wife. You know what I mean? It's probably just for
secret family.
It's for his actual. No, you're the secret. Why are you not the secret? In the
I'm not a family.
But you would be. Why would you not be the secret? And his actual family would be the secret family. You're the secret.
Can we both be secret families, though?
I guess. Yeah. All right.
Something doesn't have to be public, but yeah, he's very attractive. And I'm always just like, God, why do you... I'm one of those people who's just like, I'm a troll. Why would you ever want to date me? Which I usually lead with, which is probably why I'm single.
Yeah. That's also your profile name. I'm a troll. Why would you date me? Yeah. Even though you're like, we don't fit that many letters. Yeah, 420, baby.
Yeah, so it's going well. And I'm trying not to get in my head and fuck it up. All right. We'll see.
Well,
I'm texting today.
Yeah. I did just to mention, I did an episode, and, I don't curse on the podcast, or I try not to.
Well, we need some balance.
But I was on it, but it's in the name of the show. But I was on my friend Nikki and Steve's podcast, Shit They Don't Tell You, or Shit They Forgot to Tell You. It's one of those long, but it's great. It's on CastBox. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. And we talk about, the ghost town. But we really got into like being like, Nikki talked about being haunted. Steve had a and they were really creepy stories. God, I'm
so sad I missed it.
And they're huge skeptics too.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. So definitely check that out. Yeah.
Ooh, I will.
Shit they. I'm trying to think of the acronym.
Shit they don't tell you.
It's Shit They Don't Tell You. I think. Yeah. So it was on that. Check it out.
Okay.
But what I was gonna say is, at least you didn't or not planning on getting massacred.
We're back. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
I'm not. That's a good transition.
Yeah, that's nice, right?
No, I'm not planning. I'm planning on getting the opposite of massacred.
What is that? Just
rebuilt.
Oh, okay.
It's a human.
Oh.
We'll see. Anyway, we're back. Bring yourself back out of my dating life into Chicago, 1929, February 14th at 10:30 a.m. So, again, 7 men were murdered at the garage, 2122 North Clark Street, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Now, it was never officially linked to Al Capone. I want to say that right away, but everyone was like, yeah, it was Al Capone. He did this 1,000%. But this is not why he got imprisoned eventually for it. He was never...
Tax evasion.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk a little bit about the end of his life, etc.
We'll talk about our taxes for a little bit.
Yeah, we were to show you our taxes. We'll put them on the Instagram.
Yeah.
That's too depressing, I think.
But you know what? I think if they did see that, they'd be like, we should probably donate to their Patreon. Patreon.com/GhostTownPod for 2 bonus episodes a month.
And a full release of our taxes.
Yes, and full release of our taxes. People are like, you spent half the episode talking about Patreon, which is, unless you don't understand math, not true.
Yeah,
but that was about 30 seconds, so.
How about that? Short and sweet.
Yep.
Patreon.com/GhostTownPod.
You got it.
I did.
It only took almost a year.
Oh, I'm the best. Okay. So from 1924 to 1930, Chicago gained a widespread reputation for lawlessness and violence, as we talked about. Not coincidentally, this phenomenon coincided with Al Scarface Capone, who took over from his boss, Johnny Torrio, in 1925. Torrio was wounded in an assassination attempt in 1924 and retired to like deep Brooklyn. He was like, Chicago's too much for me. I'm going to go to deep Brooklyn where it's quiet.
Yeah,
you know? So
use
that when you're thinking about Chicago at this point, like just crime ridden. And again, Prohibition in 1920 greatly amplified this. All of the gangsters were bootlegging, and there were speakeasies, gambling, prostitution. And I want to tell you something, okay, just to give you like a heads up on how much Al Capone was worth at this time. I know we think like gangster, crazy. He was estimated to make $60 million a year in the 20s. And his net worth in 1927 was around $100 million in 1927. Yeah. Like this guy, he was Chicago. Yeah. Like he was all of the money. So at 10:30 a.m. on the 14th, 1929, 2 uniformed policemen and 2 men with suits, ties, overcoats, and hats went into. Well, sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. The massacre was allegedly planned by the organization led by Al Capone to eliminate George Bugs Moran, and he was like the North Side gang guy. So they were like taking people out one by one. And again, if you crossed Al Capone, you were just dead or like pretty close to it. He was ruthless in his ability to just like take out whoever he needed to take out. So the former boss of the North Side gang, Dino Banyan, had been murdered by 4 gunmen in his flower shop on North State Street in 1924. After his murder, each leader of the North Side gang was killed, again, systematically, and it was just like he was about to die. So earlier that year, North Sider Frank Gusenberg and his brother Peter unsuccessfully attempted to murder Jack McGurn, who was a part of Capone's gang. They were complicit in the murders of, and I love these names too, Pasqualino, Patsy LaGiordo, and Antonio the Scourge Lombardo. Like, so this is classic, like Chicago, like Italian mob scene.
I think I'm going to watch, you ever see The Untouchables?
Yeah.
It's so good. It's one of my favorite movies.
I haven't watched it in a very long time.
Yeah, it makes me want to watch it again.
But it's so interesting too, because I think you think of that being like more of a New York thing too, but it was very real in Chicago. So those guys were presidents of the Union Siciliana, the local mafia, and very close associates of Capone. Moran and Capone had been vying for control of the Chicago bootlegging trade, and Bugs Moran had been moving in on Capone's enterprises. Moran was muscling in on Capone on a dog track in the Chicago suburbs, which would have been very cool to check out, and took over a bunch of saloons by Capone and like in his territory and like insisting that they were kind of his. So the plan was to lure Bugs Moran to the SMC Cartage warehouse on North Clark Street on February 14th, 1929. Happy Valentine's Day. Very romantic. The intent was to kill Moran and perhaps 2 or 3 of his lieutenants. It didn't really go down that way. It is usually assumed that the Northsiders were lured to the garage with the promise of a stolen cut-rate shipment of whiskey supplied by some gang in Detroit, which was also associated with Capone. But the Gusenberg brothers were supposed to drive 2 empty trucks to Detroit that day to pick up 2 loads of stolen Canadian whiskey. All of the victims, with the exception of John May, were dressed in their best clothes, which I love that detail. They're all in their finest, their Valentine's Day finest, and went to meet them at this warehouse. So on Valentine's Day, most of the Moran gang had already arrived at the warehouse by 10:30 a.m. Moran was not there, though, having left his Parkway Hotel apartment late. As Moran and one of his men, Ted Newberry, approached the rear of the warehouse from a side street, they saw a police car approaching the building. They immediately turned and retraced their steps, went and hung out in a nearby coffee shop. They encountered another gang member, Henry Gusenberg, as mentioned before, on the street, and that he turned back too. Willie Marks, also a Northside gang member, spotted the police car on its way to the garage. He ducked into a doorway and jotted down the license number before leaving the neighborhood. So, like, this is already, like, the plane was kind of breaking down. So Capone's lookouts likely mistook one of Moran's men for himself, who was kind of a similar build. And that morning, the physical similarities were enhanced by their dress. Again, nice clothes. Witnesses outside the garage saw a Cadillac sedan pull to a stop in front of it. 4 men, 2 dressed in a police uniform, emerged and walked inside. 2 fake police officers. There was like fake police officers and real police officers all around this warehouse. A bunch of scared gangsters in the corner because they saw the police officers, and a bunch that hadn't seen them that were entering the building. Reinhard Schwimmer and John May, who was fixing one of the trucks, stopped inside, and then the police officers had them all inside of the warehouse and ordered them to line up against the wall, execution style. This is a very famous scene in mobster history. And actually, if you go to this place, you will see the chips in the wall that the bullets were. It's really, really great.
You know what it might be a good time for? A break.
Okay.
All right, chips in the wall.
Chips in the wall. We've got a bunch of mobsters lined up by another bunch of mobsters ready to stare death in the face. So the 2 police officers, quote unquote, signaled to the pair in civilian clothes. So there are 4 executioners, mobsters that worked for Capone. So they had them face the wall, and then 2 of them opened fired with Thompson submachine guns, one with a 20-round box magazine and the other with a 50-round drum. I didn't know what that means until I looked up like how many bullets, and it was like over 70 rounds. Yeah. So they opened fired. Even after they were all dead, like on the ground, like done, they just kept firing. And you will see again, the wall is just like covered. It's still there.
It's not something you see in movies where they just shoot them once and they walk away and the person still lives. They're like,
no,
never
it's
coming
like
back.
It's like a rain of bullets for like 30 minutes. Yeah. So they fired. The victims were George Bugs Moran's Northside gang. We got Moran's second in command and brother-in-law, Albert Kalachek. He was killed with Adam Hayer, the gang's bookkeeper and business manager, Albert Weinshank, who managed cleaning and dyeing operations for Moran, gang enforcers Frank Gusenberg and Pete Gusenberg. 2 collaborators were also shot, Reinhard H. Schwimmer, a former optician turned gambler and gang associate, just part of the mix, and John May, an occasional mechanic for the Moran gang. 2 shotgun blasts afterward all but obliterated the faces of John May and James Clark. According to the coroner's report, over 70 rounds, like I said, of ammunition was fired. That's a lot of ammunition for, again, not that many people shot. So when the police officers the real ones, finally entered the building and arrived at the scene, the men in the street clothes came out with their hands up. Inside the garage, the only survivors in the warehouse were Highball, that was May's dog, and Frank Gusenberg, who was barely alive, taken to the hospital where doctors stabilized him for a very short time. So when police questioned him, when they asked who shot him, Gusenberg, who had sustained 14 bullet wounds, replied, "No one shot me." And he died 3 hours later.
Wow. I mean, that's,
Yeah, that's real, like, whoa, no tight
stitches.
lips.
He's like, stitches, get stitches. No, but you are getting stitches anyway. I don't understand.
This is a modern miracle. Never mind.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. So it's kind of a testament to, like, that culture, too, that happened. So again, the guy that was supposed to be killed, George Bugs Moran, was on his way to the garage, and he missed getting killed by minutes. A few days later, he told reporters, "Only Capone kills like that." True. So then reporters reached out to Capone at his Florida home for comment, and Capone said, "The only man who kills like that is Bugs Moran." Like, really sending it back over to him. Though Moran and others vehemently blamed the massacre in Capone's gang, he claimed to be at his Florida home the whole time. No one was ever brought to trial for the murders, which is, again, very unfortunate.
And typical for Al Capone. He's kind of got away with a lot of things until he didn't get away with.
Exactly, which is also, I mean, I guess it's kind of like when we talked about the Wonderland shit, where it's like everyone's pretty bad, like everyone kind of deserves it, but also like, what about the families of the people?
But I mean, some people there's got to be some people that know, like, hey, you're reaping the rewards of taking blood money during a time where, like, there's a prohibition, and then there's going to be, the Great Depression's coming, around the corner, stock market crash of 1929, but yet you're somewhat flourishing. So they got to know that that's like blood money.
Yeah.
At some point,
Yeah, I guess so. God. Anyway, in 1924, authorities counted some 16 gang-related murders, and this continued until 1929, reaching a high of 64 murders in 1 year during that time. So things were like, and this is, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre was kind of indicative of the height of gang crime activity at that point. After that, everyone kind of locked down a little bit. Everyone kind of realized, because it's such a high-profile thing, like one versus the other, it was so violent. The Valentine's Day thing was also like kind of romanticized in a way. Federal authorities, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation, really tried to get Capone, and eventually they did. So Capone was public enemy number one, and after a couple of times in and out of jail, and then I believe one time he got out for good behavior after 6 months, and it's like, okay, I guess we're doing nothing here.
Like he said, please. He said, thank you.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
He folded his laundry.
Yeah.
Like he's
Gotta
a
let
good
this guy
guy.
go. Yeah, let this guy
Let
go.
him go. So the U.S. Treasury Department, as you mentioned, launched an investigation of Capone for income tax evasion through diligent forensic accounting. So again, keep your shit in order. Keep your affairs in order. You
talk
guys.
about Elliot Ness now.
Yeah.
We're getting to
Oh my
Elliot Ness.
God, we are.
Oh, so good.
Oh my God. The IRS was able to put together a case, and in June 1931, Capone was indicted for evasion of federal income tax. Convicted in October, there was the huge internationally publicized trial. He was sentenced to 11 years in prison, first in Atlanta, later in Alcatraz, very famously.
I think he may have, and I might be mistaken, and if I apologize, but I think because my brother was in Philadelphia and we were going to go visit I think one of the prisons there, Al Capone might have been at, or it's a haunted prison. I'm not sure. But he did end up in, because we talk about it in the Alcatraz episode.
Yeah, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
He was there he was probably its most famous member. Like it's a club.
Well, it's a fame thing
Prisoner.
too. It's like who's the biggest influencer at this you know what I mean?
Exactly. So he was released in 1939, and he died an invalid, recluse in his Florida home in 1947.
Of syphilis, baby. Speaking of dating,
and we're back.
Yeah, make sure you be careful, be safe out there.
We are bringing this full circle.
Yeah,
be safe out there.
Or you're gonna end up like Al Capone.
Yeah,
probably won't be syphilis though. I mean, I don't know if it'll be.
It'll be something.
It'll be something.
It's always something.
Yeah, it's always something.